Welcome to Gulfstream Park. It is March 30th, 2014. Christina Basanakis, and I'm joined by Ron Nicoletti. Such a huge weekend here of racing at Gulfstream. And Ron, the sun has returned. Beautiful weather here today.
Yeah, it's got that little bit of a cool breeze for us here in South Florida. Everywhere in the country would be hot, but it's really nice. And we got a fast main track. We have a firm turf course, and you know what? We have a huge carryover in the Rainbow Six, which starts with race 6 today, being we have an 11 race card, and there you see it, $4.4 million. And we did have a live ticket yesterday. The 2-horse in the last race, and the Bessalou Florida Derby was a live horse, so it was. I didn't think there would be one yesterday. I mean, it didn't win, so we got the carryover, but it was close to being hit. So keep those, you still got a big shot to do it.
Yeah, we sure do. And before we move into today's 11 race card, we should take a look back at yesterday, because what a day it was. The rains held off. It looked threatening throughout the day. However, cloud cover, no rain until late, so that was good for us here. But what a Florida Derby it was. It is sponsored by Bessalou Stables. Ron, what a race. Let's take a look at that race. Constitution from the Todd Pletcher barn. What a day for Todd Pletcher. He had 4 wins, and Javier Castellano, he had 5 wins yesterday. But they got the big one.
He got the good ride there. The little hole in the rail opened up. He snuck through. And how game was Wildcat Red? Wildcat Red being the 1-horse. You see Constitution on the inside. And here it's still in doubt. You think that maybe Wildcat Red will pull it out. But right there at the end, the inside, number 4, Constitution. Javier Castellano, as you know, the Eclipse winning jockey last year. And what an Eclipse winning ride that was, sneaking through on the inside. Saved all the ground and got up. But you cannot take anything away from Wildcat Red. He ran a game race, and you know what? We were outside together watching it by the rail, and it was very exciting. People were yelling and screaming because it was one of those races. It was not decided till those last 25 yards.
The atmosphere was just electric, and the house really packed to capacity. It was just a fantastic day. Watching Constitution going to the gate, and we were commenting on he was ready to roll. He was ready to run. So a big day for those connections. And again, they won both of the big races, or 2 of the big races on yesterday's card. They also had In Tune, and this was another filly, like Constitution,
lightly raced,
who was making only her 3rd start, I believe, and it was her first stakes appearance. And for Todd Pletcher, Javier Castellano was aboard. She won the Gulfstream Park Oaks, and Ron, that was another thrilling race. She hooked up with house rules from the Alan Jerkins barn, and these fillies just ding-dong down the stretch. What a tremendous. It's too bad somebody had to lose.
Yeah, and you know, everybody, of course, the 8-horse in the outside, house rules from the Chiefs barn, and everybody was cheering for him because, he's only has 8 horses in training here, and we want him to win this one. But boy, what another exciting race. But we mentioned this early in the day when we did seminars in the yesterday. Todd Pletcher on a big day. Boy, you got to keep him in mind. So he wins that In Tune. So 2 of his horses lightly raced, but come up real big in here, and they just have such bright futures ahead of them. And the Chief, he's going to win. That horse is going to win real soon. I mean, graded stakes coming, not just win.
Yeah, she's very nice filly, and I think that she's going to be, both of those fillies are going to be ones to watch. Horse, a race that I was really interested in. I had the pleasure of speaking to Joe Orsino before the yesterday's Sir Shackleton, and everybody, it seemed a foregone conclusion, didn't it, that Rebo Bobo was going to win, he's just a win machine from the Jason Service barn. However, Joe Orsino, they had Happy My Way. He ran a tremendous race. Nobody was going to catch him.
I mean, he was just a couple of ticks off the world track record, here, and it was just a great performance. And Rebo Bobo was on 3rd on the outside right there. Was not his day. He's a fan favorite. Was the logical choice to be in there, but they ran pretty much to the way we thought they were going to run it, just not with Rebo Bobo on top. And boy, that was a really nice performance by Happy My Way and Joe Orsino, a good guy. So
a gentleman.
Congratulations to him.
Yeah, he sure is, and he was high on this horse, and he thought that he really fit in with that group, and his numbers were as good as the favorite, the favorites were. So very nice performance by Happy My Way. And there's another race on yesterday's card, Ron, that we should probably talk about. It wasn't one of the stakes or the graded stakes. However, I think this is going to be a filly that you're going to hear from in the future. Race 3, a maiden special weight. The filly's name was La Madrina. La Madrina is a half to a couple of graded stakes winners, El Padrino and Verrazano, winner of the Wood Memorial and the Haskell. She is by Tappet, and she's a big, beautiful daughter of Tappet.
Yeah, she ran fantastically. So write this horse's name down, because you're going to see this horse, you know, in stakes competition real soon. Just won very, very easily right out of the box. So someone that you're going to be watching just has that great breeding, and another great horse in the Shug McGahee barn.
Yeah, it's a couple of horses we're going to look at today, the official end of the meet, I believe, next weekend. However, today we're honoring, and the presentations will be made for the leaders at this year's Champions Meet. And among them, I know you're all shocked, Todd Pletcher. He leads the trainers with 66 winners, and Javier Castellano, 131 winners on the meet.
That's a record that he broke his record last year, Javier.
And
here at Gulfstream.
And both of those are Eclipse Award winners in 2013.
Right.
And we have another Eclipse Award winner, the Ramseys, Ken and Sarah Ramsey. They had 36 winners on the meet. And again, the way you want to kick off the year. Yeah,
that's a great accomplishments by all three. And Todd Pletcher, I think this might be his 8th title here in a row.
This is his 11th.
11th title. There you go. So, wow.
Yep.
And Javier just riding
Javier,
great
his 3rd.
Yeah.
Yep.
He just seems to make all the right moves. So, congratulations to everybody and all the people that are involved with Javier, Todd, and, of course, the Ramseys.
The Ramseys, for sure. So, Ron, we got a lot of ground to cover.
All right, let's knock this card out.
11 races, and we'll start with the first on the card. It is a 10,000 claiming event. It is a mile on the main track. And my top selection, I went with number 2, Hot Coffee, from the David Fox barn. And David had a nice win yesterday. Actually had a couple of horses run very, very well on yesterday's card, and this one 3rd last time, but finding a little bit easier company.
Yeah, and previous winner. It's only previous race at this 1 mile distance. The big favorite up there right now is the One Tailor Piece, stretching out to a mile. 3 previous races at a mile with a win and a second. Rally late, defeated $12,500, 3 lifetime types. Looks like a logical choice, but if you look at the board, 3 to 5. But the interesting thing, it's ridden by jockey Ramsey Zimmerman. And what did he do the other day? First couple of mounts in South Florida, Gulfstream, he won them both.
Yep.
So it looks like a good combination there. Hot Coffee on my ticket, too.
Looking onto the second race on today's card, and it is a 16,000 claiming event, 7.5 furlongs on the turf course. And my top selection, Ron, it looks like we went in the same direction. Number 6, T-Mark, from the Peter Walder barn. Javier Castellano, our meet's leading rider, is aboard.
Yeah, this one, now, as you mentioned, in the Peter Walder barn, turning back to 7.5 furlongs. He had that ground-saving trip last time out, produced a 3rd place finish against similar, but that was going a mile and 16. Just like, it looks like the logical spot. Walder, very good. You already know that. Over 20% with new additions to his barn. And you mentioned Javier. There's no need to say anything else. And I used Colby Tavern. So did you. I threw the 4 in there in 3rd, and I really didn't know what to do with the 3rd spot. I saw you use the 3. So after the 6 and 8, that's where you might want to hit the all button.
Yeah, because that does kick off the first pick 4 of the afternoon, and that is in race 2. Looking on to the 3rd race on today's card, and it is a 75,000 maiden claiming event, a mile and 16th on the turf course. And my top selection, again, it looks like we went in the same direction, Ron. Ahead of the curve, that's the number 5 from the Terry Pompey barn. And I just like this horse. This colt's been coming out of some competitive races. If you look at both of those maiden special weight races that he ran in earlier this season, they were pretty competitive races, and I thought that he showed, he ran a pretty good race, and last time only beaten a length and a quarter.
Well, Christina and I have our selections on the tip sheet that they hand out each and every day here at Gulfstream Park, and we both had this horse as our best bet. So we are in agreement here. Does his best running from off the pace. Looks like he's going to get a good scenario in there. The last race he comes out of was a key race. Produced 3 next out winners from only 9 starters. So lots to like about the number 5 ahead of the curve.
And looking on to the 4th race on the card, and is an allowance 6.5 furlongs on the main track. And we do have a scratch. Number 1, Pure and Crazy Luck.
That is the first scratch on the whole card.
I know. Yeah, today we've got everybody wants to run. Everybody wants to run. Big weekend here. So my top selection, I went with Mr. Joe Orsino. I'm hoping that the streak's going to continue. Number 5, Rosie My Way, and I just think that she fits at this level. Last time she was an allowance company, but Ron, really, if you look at this race, it is an allowance, but a lot of these horses have been running at a similar level in about, or at 25, 30,000.
Yeah, it's really not you would say, a true allowance racing here. I did not have the 5 on my ticket, but I will go back and look at it. I went with the 6 Quiet Arrow, who scratched the other day. Loved this horse the other day. Scratched out of a race. Now in the Mike Pino barn, Avita Claim steps up to the allowance ranks, which we just mentioned. Shook off trouble in his last start on the backstretch. He was steadied and won that race, defeated $25,000 claimants. And I think that's sort of what the level is here.
Yeah, and Mike Pino, tough beat yesterday with Mr. Online. It was a tough beat for me too. But hey, Leroy, he's a tough horse.
Hey, Leroy, what a horse! He runs every weekend. He wins every week. It seems like
he does. He's such a consistent horse. On to the 5th race on today's card. It's $62.50 allowance optional claiming event. This kicks off the second pick 4 of the afternoon, and they will be going 6 furlongs on the main track. And I went with number 2. Weekend Hideaway from the Phil Serpy barn, and making his last few starts on the dirt, gets onto the on the turf, and gets onto the dirt here today. But Ron, this horse has been running in stakes company, so I think in terms of class, he's one of those that stands out.
Yeah, and he was stakes placed on the dirt as a 2-year-old. So, he's going back, as you mentioned, been on the turf. I went with the number 1, Slana Balhi on the inside, and this is also a stakes-placed Son of Heartspun, training lights out. If you look at his workout pattern, boy, he's training for his first start since getting beat about 4+ lengths against a next out stakes winner in that race. That's Candyman E. It was an optional claimer at Belmont in October. Horse is just working. If it works, it runs like it works, boy, it's going to be tough to beat in there, but also got Weekend Hideaway. And I got the 3 Vicuna on my ticket. And Vicuna, this is one of the things I didn't have to check with Larry, because when in my past life, I used to make some clothing. Vicuna was a fabric that we used to use to make overcoats.
Oh, look at that.
See that? I finally knew something.
Yeah, there's going to be showing speed in there, too. You mentioned Slanowalia actually finished 2nd behind Shanghai Bobby, who is a 2-year-old champion, so it has some quality. But that's going to be an interesting race. Short field, but I think it's going to be a pretty interesting race. On to the 6th race on today's card that kicks off the Rainbow 6, and we do have a carryover over $4.4 million. And my top selection, I went with number 7, Murmur from the Todd Blanchard barn. And Murmur has she made both of her previous starts on the turf. She gets on the dirt this time. Lemon Drop Kid. Pretty versatile was what I was going to say.
I cracked her up with Murmur. We have our Exacta flip-flop. I also have Murmur on the ticket, but I went with Cali Star on top. Stretching out around 2 turns for the first time. Rallied to finish 2nd behind. And I thought was an impressive winner, and that was Bridled Eris. That was their recent outing, going 6 furlongs.
Yeah, Bridled Eris just won the other day. Very nice. Yeah, very nice win. And I also threw on my ticket number 1, a Senior Prom from the Dale Romans barn. She finished 2nd. She was beaten 11 lengths, but the filly she beat from the Todd Fletcher barn, My Miss Sophia, very nice filly. So I think I threw her on my ticket as well. And as we said, that race kicks off the Rainbow 6, so I think you're going to want to use a few in there.
Okay. You don't want to be knocked out in the first leg.
No, you don't want to be knocked out in the first. On to the 7th race on today's card, and is a 16,000 claiming event, 7.5 furlongs on the turf course. And that race kicks off the pick 5. And my top selection, it looks like we went in the same direction here, Ron, and that is with the number 1, Nice to Regal, who's coming into this off of a 4th place effort. But I'm hoping she'll run back to her an earlier race on March 9th. She won that day with Paco Lopez aboard. He gets back aboard here today. And
back in only 7 days. I had a little concern about that, but still ended up putting it on the top of my ticket, and that's the number 1, Nice to Regal. Used Bears Dixie in 2nd and Angel's Girl in 3rd. And that's one of the races in the Rainbow 6 sequence where I believe you have to go deeper in that particular race. I couldn't really pinpoint the winner in there, especially with the logical choice coming back off only 7 days rest.
I think another race you mentioned that you have to go a little bit deeper. I think the 8th is going to be one of those too, because I don't know that it's necessarily going to be a one-shot deal. However, the 8th race is a maiden special weight for 3-year-old fillies, and it is a 1/16 on the turf course. Kicks off the late pick 4, and my top selection, both of us did go with number 3, Little Miss Brown, and Michael Matz trains this one, and she looks like she's going to be showing speed. At least she did in her debut on the turf. However, it seems to be, I think, a pretty competitive heat.
Yeah, I had her on top of my tickets for that reason. Looks like she was the pace. But I put a horse in second, the 6, Run of the Rivers, a beautifully bred daughter of Tappet, making her career debut for Shug McGay. Really a series of, steady, nice workouts up at Payson Park. And had a first-time starter win yesterday, so maybe Shug can do it 2 days in a row. And I really like the breeding. I love these Tappets, so see what happens with the number 6, Run of the River.
Funny thing is, with Tappets, usually I always wanted to see them have a starter too, or going a little bit further. She's getting a 1/16. But also, lately, we've been seeing a lot of Tappets breaking their maiden first time out. So I agree with you. That's going to be one of those horses to watch. On to the 9th race on today's card, and is a 75,000 allowance optional claiming race. 7.5 furlongs on the turf course. And Ron, we're in agreement. Number 3, chart topper Brian Lynch trains this one, and we'll have some speed.
Yeah, I think this one should be primed and ready to score. Returned from that 2-month freshening, stalked early, drew clear to open the 3-length lead. Said, oh, this horse is free, but got a little leg weary there. And from its earlier efforts, it got beat 2 lengths. I think the proverbial screws will be tightened this afternoon on the number 3, chart topper.
And looking on to the 10th race on the card is another 75,000 allowance optional claiming event. It is 6.5 furlongs on the main track, and number 1 Grand Arrival gets a blinkers off, and also first-time gelding here today. And I went with number 6. I went with Little Daddy.
Little Daddy.
Yeah, by Scat Daddy from the Carlo Vaccarezza barn, won first time out. And I know that you went with Mr. Todd Fletcher.
Yeah, I went with the 7 All in Blue, and this one is making his 3-year-old debut, and the first start since failing to handle the mud, but that was in the Grade 1 hopeful at Saratoga. We've been singing the praises of Todd Fletcher throughout the show, so you know the reason I put it on top. But Little Daddy, that horse was impressive. He broke slowly and just came flying like a freight train to win his first start, so should be an interesting exacta box.
I think so too. Joel Rosario gets aboard Little Daddy for the first time here today. And on to the 11th and final race on the afternoon, and it is a starter allowance with horses that have a race they're restricted to a claiming price, or which have started for a claiming price of $50,000. It is a 1.16 on the turf course. I went with number 7, Doherty. This is from the Todd Fletcher barn, getting blinkers on today for the first time. And Javier Castellano, he gets back aboard here. And this horse, I thought that last time, that race was credible.
Yeah, it's credible, and as we mentioned, these connections, hard not to leave them off the ticket, so what did I do? I left them off the ticket. I went with the number 3, Cage Fighter, an impressive maiden winner on the Churchill turf course, is back on the grass after a couple of really solid performances on wet tracks. Mike Maker, Julian Leperoux, Mike Maker, another one having a fantastic Gulfstream meeting. So, and congratulations to Mike Maker and the connections. They won yesterday the Louisiana Derby.
Yeah, they did win the Louisiana Derby. So, here at Gulfstream, not only people who have done well here, and it just shows the horses that have come from here, they ship all over the country.
And beat everybody.
And they win all the big races, so, or a lot of them in any case. So, that's it for Ron Nicoletti, myself. We will be back in just a few moments, and we'll give you the day's rundown. But folks, we'll let you go by taking a look at yesterday's Pan American, and that was Newsdad, winner 2012, winner again 2014.
Comes Slumber on the outside. 2 lengths behind and closing in. Charming Kitten, Newsdad on the far outside, and Vertiformer trying to find a seam at the rail to come on through. Newsdad, Vertiformer on the inside. Newsdad does it! Vertiformer, Slumber third.